Good morning, church. Has the coronavirus convinced us that God's Spirit pervades the whole world and that we're all brothers and sisters in the family of God? Or do we see our Christian culture as somehow superior to other denominations or to other peoples? About 700 years before the birth of Jesus, Isaiah the prophet, who lived in Jerusalem, challenged the people of Israel to change their ways and live with justice with each other. He was particularly angry with the Jewish leadership. He said that if they continued to act as they were, the whole country would end up in destruction. The leadership didn't listen. Eventually, Israel was destroyed by the Babylonians, and the Jewish leaders were taken into captivity. Let me read Isaiah to you. It is from chapter 5, verses 1 through 7. Let me now sing of my friend's song concerning his vineyard. My friend had a vineyard on a fertile hillside. He spaded it, cleared it of stones, and planted the choicest vines. Within it he built a watchtower and hewed out a winepress. Then he looked for the crop of grapes, but what it yielded was wild grapes. Now, inhabitants of Jerusalem and people of Judah, judge between me and my vineyard. What more was there to do for my vineyard that I had not done? Why, when I looked for the crop of grapes, did it bring forth wild grapes? Now I let you know what I mean to do with my vineyard. Take away its hedge, give it to grazing, break through the wall, let it be trampled. Yes, I will make it a ruin. It shall not be pruned or hoed, but overgrown with thorns and briars. I will command the clouds not to send rain upon it. The vineyard of the Lord of hosts is the house of Israel, and the people of Judah are his cherished plant. He looked for judgment, but see bloodshed, for justice, but hark the outcry. "50 years after their captivity in Babylon, the Persians defeated the Babylonians and allowed the Jews to return to Israel and rebuild their community. But once again, the old injustices remained. In the year 70, the Roman Empire destroyed Jerusalem and tore down their temple. All that remained for the Jewish community was their local synagogues, in which Jews who followed Moses and Jews who followed Jesus Christ worshipped together. But 20 years later, the injustices continued, and Matthew quotes Isaiah and challenges the Jewish leadership with the same Isaiah parable. Let me read Matthew to you. It's from chapter 21, verses 33 to 43. Jesus said to the chief priests and elders of the people, "Hear another parable. There was a landowner who planted a vineyard, put a hedge around it, dug a wine press in it, and built a tower. Then he leased it to tenants and went on a journey. When vintage time drew near, he sent his servants to the tenants to obtain his produce. But the tenants seized the servants, and one they beat, another they killed, and a third they stoned. Again he sent other servants, more numerous than the first time, but they treated them in the same way. Finally he sent his son to them, thinking, 'They will respect my son.' But when the tenants saw the son, they said to one another, 'This is the heir. Come, let us kill him and acquire his inheritance.' They seized him, threw him out of the vineyard, and killed him. What will the owner of the vineyard do to those tenants when he comes?" They said, "He will put those wretched men to a wretched death, and lease his vineyard to other tenants who will give him the produce at the proper time." Jesus said to them, "Did you never read in the scriptures, 'The stone that the builders rejected has become the cornerstone'? By the Lord has this been done, and it is wonderful in our eyes. Therefore I say to you, the kingdom of God will be taken away from you and given to a people that would produce its fruit." The problem from Matthew is that he's convinced that the Jesus followers are correct, and he wants the Moses followers to let go and follow Jesus. Now, one thing we realize in this time of pandemic is that no one has the perfect answer for how to curb the crisis. Medical doctors are continually revising their thinking. In Ireland, the Irish president went on national television pleading with the youth of the country to please wear masks. And in the United States, our American president scoffs at those wearing masks, calling it a defeatist attitude. In a year or two, we may have a better understanding of the coronavirus and perhaps know better how to deal with it. Now, we have already 2,500 years of reflection to solve the problem that faced Isaiah and Matthew. Why is the solution taking so long? "2,000 years later, we still see the division, and we have witnessed the devastation that the division has caused. If Matthew had spoken with compassion and called on both camps to live in a similar way, the world might be more peaceful and just. The question for us is how we see our faith. Do we see ourselves as superior to other denominations? Or are we reaching out in love and compassion? And lastly, how do we see our leadership? Last week, Father Flannery, a Redemptorist priest from Ireland, who was suspended from the priesthood in 2012, was told that he will remain suspended until he signs an oath saying that he affirms that only men can be ordained validly, and agrees that homosexual practices are contrary to natural law. If Jesus spoke today, what parable might he use to address our church leadership? God bless you.